A few months ago, I came to you and I said that Marxism had overrun collegiate debate in America.
They say the nigga is always already queer. That's exactly the point. It means that the impact is not, that is an impact turn to the affirmative.
I be having dreams of chocolate-covered watermelons.
It's a case turn to the affirmative because we are saying that queer bodies are not able to survive. That it necessarily means that the body of the nigga is not able to survive.
When the nigga sees these pains and suffering, that he can only envision himself, that he does not see another nigga that he can feel sympathy for or embrace, but rather that otherness gets says that the way that the status quo works is through whiteness, allowing, forcing other bodies to tell narrations of whiteness and the violences that whiteness does.
Well, unfortunately, I have bad news for you. The same affliction has also been set upon high school and middle school debate in America. The clips I'm about to show you are from one of the most prestigious debating tournaments in the whole country for high school and middle school debate, hosted by the National Speech and Debate Association, which is the largest interscholastic speech and debate organization serving middle school and high school students in America, and it's also considered the national authority on public speaking and debate. So as far as educational institutions go, this is the organization that sets the standard for a lot of practices that help refine the minds, speaking, and reasoning skills of our youth. And you will see why that is so terrifying in a second. So this is from one of the most, again, prestigious tournaments, and we're going to actually break this down by different topics. So one of the things that happens in a lot of these debate tournaments is that there will be a topic given, but instead of the debaters actually debating the topic, they will actually just insert a straw man and debate something that is entirely external to the topic in the name of some sense of justice, in the name of some kind of just cause. So for example, the first example I'm going to show you here, there was a resolution put forth that asked whether predictive policing is unjust. And this debater I'm going to show you, instead of actually addressing that question, decided to instead rant about so-called anti-blackness. Go.
All your arguments are anti-black both in form and content. Why should debate exist in the attempt to preserve fair and educational but anti-black debate space is bad because they are complicit with anti-blackness, causing a proliferation of violence. That symbolic rupture can only come in a form of black terrorism in which blackness weaponizes its existence by injecting blackness into the space and by being parasitic. You want me to out my strategy, which leads to like black debaters being contested and negated in public spheres just to be humiliated and pushed out?
Well, unfortunately, there are many more cases of this in this exact tournament. So the topic for this next one was, should the United States remove its military presence in the Arab states? Instead of actually debating the topic, a team that was debating this topic said, and I quote, and I'll show you a little bit too, that debating the topic is irrelevant while society is dominated by white Christians. Go.
The military-industrial complex has been coupled with American Christianity, the worship of the weapons of whiteness. Thus, we demand that the U.S. remove its military presence from the Middle East to end our senseless crusade. Scholars are the starting point for ending our horrible policies. We have tolerated 40 years of Christian conservatism. It must end now. Endorsing our advocacy instead of banal parroting right-wing rhetoric is the only way we can demand an end to Pope Donald's crusade.
Our argument, simply put, is that religion and politics is inevitable, as the United States was built to be a city upon a hill for white Christians. American Christianity has controlled all aspects of politics, such as justifying slavery. We solved by decoupling weapons and worships and ending the crusade. White Christians literally inscribe scriptures onto their weapons, worshiping through war. We demand that white Christians be held accountable for America's original sin. The negative continues the trend in politics while whiteness devours the other. By voting for us, the judge will send his signal to political leaders and condemn Christianity in politics. Debating this topic is irrelevant while society is dominated by white Christians. Even if we have something educational to say about this topic, the political will just pray it away and continue their mission to conquer the world in the name of Jesus Christ.
It continues to get worse. So there was another topic about the International Monetary Fund, and if the International Monetary Fund has more costs or does it have more benefits? So if we should keep it or not. Well, the team I'm about to show you, instead of debating that topic, decided to instead say the topic is not important because trans people are being genocided by MAGA Republicans, and that is more important to debate. Go.
Here's how I prepped for the TOC. I woke up a week before and learned that 28 instead of 27 states wanted to kill me. The clip I played is from the 1987 ACTA protest in New York City. It was not the first and certainly not the last demonstration of its kind. It joins a tradition of trans and queer protest against institutions and to reform communities that are violent and exclusive. We are here to join this tradition in our own small way. So welcome to the protest. We are tired of how debate treats trans people. More than that, we are tired of the way that their treatment is normalized, how it is treated as a necessary byproduct of having good discourse. When a nationally ranked team is bold enough to read arguments that make trans people uncomfortable in front of an 11-person panel and not be called out for it, something needs to change. When a trans kid can go 3 years in debate believing being misgendered was simply something he needed to take in order to win ballots, something needs to change. When almost every trans person quits debate or considers quitting several times a month, several times a week, several times a day, something needs to change.
Well, another team debating this very topic used an argument saying that because their opposing team had white people on it, they have less impact and less validity to talk about this. Go.
They have a white debater on their team, which inherently means they have more whiteness than us. We obviously know that JJ is not white. It's pretty obvious. Go down onto our pick. We give you 3 warrants why we subsume all of their protests and affirm their protests. In a pick, what it means is you are furthering their cause just minus the whiteness. As Rebecca is a vehicle for this movement, we say whiteness is really bad for representation in queer people, and it's a bad form of furthering this protest. The best way to further the protest is to vote for our pick and to affirm it, but minus the whiteness. They say that we're taking over JJ's labor, but first, this is a new response. If they read this response before, we probably would have read a CAPK about how you can't use labor across identity lines. That's a really bad thing to do. Second, how picks work is you affirm their protest. We're not taking over their labor. It's just a technicality of debate. Then they say that it's trans exclusion. No. Couple responses that they dropped from Sanji. 1, our constructive speech was about personal experiences, about our identity. We are not comfortable discussing our sexuality on a live stream with 130 people. Second, we say that them telling us how we should represent our advocacy feeds into our link about racism, because a white person, someone on a white team, should never be telling 2 women of color how they should be furthering their advocacy. That's an independent link into our whiteness argument that gets dropped. You can drop them right now.
Now, when you actually think of what you've just seen, many of you probably have, if you're like me, a variety of responses. Perhaps you have horror, perhaps you have disappointment, perhaps you have deep pessimism, and I'll explain to you the significance of all of this if you stick with me, because there's more to this than what you see. I want you all to hold your thoughts, hold your emotions, because there is something deeper that we can get through here, and we can actually solve in this very video, I hope. But it all makes sense when you consider the next clip I'm going to show you, where this high school debater says that debate is not about winning an argument. Rather, debate is about making sure, and I quote, everyone feels okay, and making sure everyone feels safe. And this debater basically says the judges of his round agreed with him and decided who won that round. Not on the basis of who made the best argument, but on the basis of who made people feel okay and who made people feel safe. Go.
It's important to recognize that debate is not about winning an argument. It's about making sure everyone feels okay and making sure everyone feels safe. So when that's hindered upon, I think that's when debate becomes essentially useless in the first place. So it was really, really eye-opening to see those passionate RFDs given by the judges, to see that debate really doesn't matter about the IMF. Like, who cares? Like, what matters is like those people who need to be safe within the round itself.
All right. So there are a few things we have to talk about here. First, let's ask ourselves a question. What is the purpose of debate in a civilized, free society? Many of you may say, well, debate is there so we can find the truth, Christian. Well, that's the ideal, but it's not actually the full and total purpose of debate. That is simply one minor aspect of an otherwise diverse and complex rhetorical exercise like debate. And it's also not even universally true. Debate was concocted, or was first primarily used by the sophists of ancient Greece to get people away from sound thinking and to rather encourage people to use rhetorical sleights of hands, obfuscation, and manipulation of language to win arguments at the detriment of truth. This is why Socrates and the Platonic dialogues actually calls these people out for who they are, as people who hate philosophy, who hate the truth, and merely wish to get ahead on the basis of their rhetorical wit. Well, unfortunately, this is the model that debate has taken in modern-day American education, where our education system is squarely under the influence of an idea called progressive education, which was essentially born of the Prussian system, of theorists like Wilhelm von Humboldt, who believed that education was not about, rather, teaching people things for the sake of finding the truth or understanding reality, but it was rather about teaching people things to give them tools they can use to perpetuate A, the state, and B, the society and the culture at hand. Von Humboldt called this idea Wissenschaft. And his idea of Wissenschaft basically said that education exists for its own sake. The pupil doesn't matter. The student doesn't matter. What actually matters is education being perpetuated, being led on for the sake of education. And unfortunately, it was this mentality that founded the modern-day research university in America. It was this mentality that influenced the founding and the sculpting of the public school system in America. It was this mentality that influenced the creation of public school administration at the hands of theorists and people like Cubberley. And Cubberley was actually a devotee of Humboldt's idea of Wissenschaft, as was almost every politician during the progressive era who was in power. It was these mentalities and ideas that set forth John Dewey, who came afterwards, his notion of what education should be, which is that it should be an attempt to make the minds of the youth reflect social consciousness, social mindedness, not broader ideas, not reading, writing, arithmetic, but instead matters that are indicative to the society at hand. Education in America for the past 200 plus years has been about entombing the minds of the youth to a limited social consciousness at the expense of their ability to understand and therefore function in reality. So what does that mean for debate? Well, if debate is a rhetorical exercise, like I've argued, then it perfectly fits in with our current mediocre framework of what education is, because the rhetorical exercise is about sleight of hand and manipulation of language. And if you put this tool amidst the system of progressive education, it will reflect the system. All we're seeing here is debate reflecting the system. But in general, debate is not all about manipulation or rhetorical sleight of hand. Debate also is about refining and sharpening the mind so that we can not only understand reality, understand the truth, but by consequence of understanding reality, understanding the truth, we can have a better society. What do I mean? Well, if debate can be used to refine the mind, and the mind is the thing that distinguishes us as human beings from the beast, from the animal, our ability to reason, and our society is based off of the consequences of our reason, then I can then argue that a society of people who are mentally sharp, who understand first principles, who have a good system of philosophy in their head, who have a good set of morals within their heart, is a society that will then therefore have healthy norms, healthy mentalities, and from that, a proper political order. But if we have a society where first principles are ignored, philosophy is forgotten, rhetoric and sleights of hand are the tool used by those in the system to advance their own power agenda, and foul ideas that can only be advocated for through rhetorical sleights of hand and through the principles that suggest make its way into our society, you will get a society of disorder, chaos, and decadence like we see now. Marxism, socialism, German-based, Prussian-based centralized education, which is a product of a kind of socialist thinking embodied in Hegel, is what we are seeing play out in those clips I showed you, and also play out in the educational system of America. Not just college. College is one of the biggest fronts in this war for the enemy's camp, but it's also for high school and middle school. That's how they get you engrafted in this system, where from the cradle to the grave, you are literally taught obedience, not independent-mindedness. From the cradle to the grave, you are literally taught regurgitation, not innovation of thought. From the cradle to the grave, You are literally boxed in to pre-made narratives that are set by academics, that are set by the mediocre minds of our generation, that then therefore ensnare you into a set of historical and informational traps that you cannot escape from because you grew up learning this and consuming this trash so much so that it becomes a part of your identity. If you don't believe me, how many Americans were taught during the Cold War to trust the American government no matter what at any cost? A lot of people were. And that was a propagandized attempt from the state to dominate the minds of people through vain fascinations and entombing them. You see, people think that during the 60s and the 70s with Nixon, we had a conservative administration. But you have to understand, it's not about the person in power. It's not about power. I hate it when people say, oh, it's all about power. No, it's about what the system is based upon, the norms of the system, which then interact with power and then have an impact on policy. That's what it's about. And if you don't understand that, you will not understand what the reckoning that we're going through right now as a country. You will not understand what's going on right now with the youth. You will not understand why the TikTokification of our generations is actually having a sizable impact on our moral thinking, our philosophical thinking. It's because of the norms of power that have been informed by principles that have been in place for hundreds of years and have been propagandizing people from generation throughout generation throughout generation. That is what it's about, people. It's not about a president. It's not about a professor at Harvard. It's about the system and what it's built on. That's what it's about. That's what's going on here. Even people who are older listening to me right now, many of you have not existed in a system of knowledge in America that embraced an educational model before the current progressive education model in America. Before 1835, this is when it really came to hill. 1835 is the date American education changed forever. Before that, we had a system called traditional education, where education was decentralized, where it was put in the hands of the parents, where it taught, rather than teaching about society and politics as a matter of value statements, it taught about general truths, general moral norms and decency, and it kept the pupil's mind focused on what was established, kept them focused on critical thinking. But then the progressive education sweeps in and says, no, that's too boring, that's too static, that doesn't actually help advance society. We need to make the pupil geared towards social progress. So literally, the education system went from a neutral arbiter of the world's events and topics that actually enrich your ability to think, and then when you grow up, you can go up and think whatever you want, to a system of indoctrination meant to imprint upon the mind an ideological agenda meant to turn you into an automaton. And literally, I have quotes of people, of theorists, from the progressive era saying we need to make people into automatons. We need to make the pupil into automatons. It's not sensationalism. It's what's happening. And this is why, when we talk about debate, when we talk about rhetoric and rhetorical exercises that are used in certain senses, we can't talk about them independent of the affliction that so many American minds bear due to the structural infection of foreign ideas, anti-American ideas that is set upon our nation. You can't talk about this without talking about philosophy. It's not just about Marxism. It's way beyond Marxism, guys. I put it in the title so you would click the video, and I think that it's a little bit true that there's some Marxist ideas in here, but it's not about Marxism. Get out of that influencer set mindset. It's not about Marxism. It's about the system that predates Marxism. It's about the system of centralized control. It's about the old world notion of status being that which confers truth, that which confers beauty, as opposed to individual thought breaking from the herd. That is what it's about. We have a society in the New World ruled by old world concepts. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. Our founders probably wouldn't be able to believe it. We have a society that is so young in its conception of freedom as the value of our political order and association as the guiding mechanism of our social interactions, that it is so radically different from the world that if you look at our society from 1830 to like 1930, you'll probably see more innovation in that single period than you have seen throughout any similar period in human history. The New World has been corrupted by the Old World, by the lie of authority, by the lie of vanity, by the lie of status. And what you saw in those clips is a consequence of that. We have to reclaim the minds of people in our nation, young and old, because a lot of you guys who are old, you're also captured by the New World. I'm sorry to say it. By the Old World, excuse me. I'm sorry to say it. You're captured. Even I am captured in some senses, and I'm trying to break out of it. We need a revolution of the mind in this country. We need a firm rejection of the old world. We need a firm rejection of Marxism. We need a firm rejection of socialism. We need a firm rejection of status as the conferrer of values. We need a firm rejection of collectivism. We need a firm rejection of decadence and degeneracy in our culture. We need a firm rejection of the manipulation of language and the rhetorical sleights of hand that are known to certain ideologies. And we need an assertion of good old-fashioned Americanism, individualism, reason as a value, consent of the governed, popular sovereignty, a rational ethic in society, voluntary association, seeking knowledge, objective truth. That is what it is about. And the sooner our movements can embody that idea and push forth, the better off our children, the better off institutional debate, and the better off our educational system will all be. Don't let these instances I've shown you alarm you too much. Let them be the motivation that you use to be a part of the revolution of the mind, to change what is happening on the ground for a better and more prosperous America. My friends, like this video, comment on this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. If you enjoy philosophical commentary from a conservative American point of view, please be sure to also subscribe to me. Please also be sure to donate to me if you want to. All that is in the comment section down below. My friends, let's get to 10,000 subscribers within the next few months. I believe we can do it. I know we're going to do it. I love you guys so much, and please study history, study philosophy, refine your mind, stay morally convicted, and please, you better stay pensive. Bye, guys.